The truth about emotional freedom. What Buddha really meant. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your emotions weren't truly yours? Like you're constantly reacting, bending, shrinking, defending, just to keep up with the chaos around you? Maybe it's a rude comment that stings longer than it should. Maybe it's the silence from someone you care about that unsettles your entire day. Maybe it's just the feeling of being tugged in every direction, emotionally drained, without even knowing why. If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. In fact, most of us live like emotional puppets. We let our peace hang on a thread, controlled by what others say or do. We smile when others approve. We spiral when they disapprove. And sometimes even the smallest glance can ruin a perfectly good day. But what if I told you that freedom, the kind that truly lasts, doesn't come from avoiding pain? It comes from no longer being touched by it. As the Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." That wisdom cuts deep. Because anger, fear, disappointment, they don't punish us from the outside. They punish us from within, if we give them control. And here's the quiet truth. You don't have to live like that. This video is your wake-up call. Because once you understand this, everything changes. This isn't about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about becoming untouchable in the best possible way. It's about rising above the emotional noise that surrounds you, not by shutting down, but by becoming centered, rooted, clear, calm. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow, and instead of immediately checking your phone or bracing yourself for stress, you simply breathe. And in that breath, you feel peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped letting everything pull you out of yourself. That's what emotional freedom looks like, and it's not out of reach. In fact, it begins right here. In this video, we're going to explore a path inspired by timeless Buddhist teachings, a path that leads to emotional mastery, not by escaping the world, not by avoiding hard things, but by learning how to meet every moment with stillness. So, imagine this. You wake up tomorrow, and instead of immediately checking your phone or bracing yourself for stress, you simply breathe. And in that breath, you feel peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped letting everything pull you out of yourself. That's what emotional freedom looks like, and it's not out of reach. In fact, it begins right here. In this video, we're going to explore a path inspired by timeless Buddhist teachings, a path that leads to emotional mastery, not by escaping the world, not by avoiding hard things, but by learning how to meet every moment with stillness. So, if you've been feeling overwhelmed, if you're tired of reacting to every trigger, every opinion, every unexpected twist in life, stay with me. Because what you're about to learn has the power to shift the way you see everything, and I don't say that lightly. This isn't another feel-good message. It's a clarity reset, a return to center, a reminder that you are not your reactions. You're not the emotion that flares up. You're not the thought that spins out of control. You're the awareness behind it all. And when you truly realize that, when you stop grabbing every hook, every judgment, every drama that tries to pull you in, you'll find a stillness inside you that nothing can shake. That is the beginning of real peace. And that's the journey we're about to take together. So take a deep breath, set aside the distractions, and give yourself permission to finally let go of what no longer deserves your energy. By the end of this video, you'll understand not only why you feel so emotionally pulled in every direction, but also how to stop giving away your peace to every passing mood, glance, or word. This isn't about becoming indifferent. It's about becoming intentional. And from that place, nobody and nothing can touch your peace again. Let's begin. The art of letting go. Why not everything deserves your energy. Let me ask you something quietly. When was the last time you felt truly at peace, not just on the outside, but deep within your chest? Not distracted, not running through to-do lists, not wondering who you might be disappointing, just still. If that moment feels rare, you're not alone. Most of us are exhausted, but not from physical work. We're emotionally tired. Tired of overthinking, tired of over-explaining, tired of constantly responding to expectations we didn't even choose. It's like we wake up every day already carrying 1,000 invisible ropes. One tugging from a coworker's opinion, one from a family member's judgment, one from something someone said online last week. And each of those ropes pulls you a little further from your center, until one day you realize you're stretched so thin there's nothing left of you. But what if I told you you're allowed to let go? Yes, you're allowed to drop what doesn't belong to you. You're allowed to stop reacting to everything that pokes at your peace. Because here's the truth. Peace doesn't come from having nothing to care about. It comes from caring about the right things. There's a line of Buddhist wisdom that echoes this deeply. The root of suffering is attachment. And attachment isn't just to people. It's to being liked, to being right, to being seen, to meeting expectations that were never aligned with your truth. Think of it like this. Every rude comment, every sideways glance, every silence you interpret as judgment is like someone throwing a hook at you. And each time you react, you're grabbing that hook and letting it pull you around. No wonder we're tired. We're not living. We're tethered. But what if you stopped catching the hooks? What if your mind became like a still pond, undisturbed by every ripple of opinion, criticism, or comparison? Because the more you react, the more you stir the waters, the more distorted your reflection becomes. Try asking yourself this question when something pulls at you. Is this truly mine to carry? Is this expectation aligned with your values? Does it lead you to peace or drag you into noise? Most of what weighs us down doesn't belong to us. It's gossip, it's trends, it's unresolved guilt. It's trying to win a race you never signed up for. You don't have to respond to every message. You don't have to perform for every audience. You don't have to chase every approval. True strength, it often looks like stillness, like silence, like walking away, not because you're weak, but because you refuse to be baited. There's something beautiful about a person who doesn't flinch at every opinion, who doesn't explain every choice, who doesn't break every time they're misunderstood. That kind of emotional freedom isn't about building walls. It's about not handing out keys to everyone who knocks. So maybe you've been asking the wrong question. Not how do I keep everyone happy, but what actually brings me peace? Start small. Let your silence speak louder than your defense. Let your calm be your power. Let your attention become sacred, because it is. Remember, the less you react, the more you reclaim. And when you stop caring about every piece of noise, you start hearing your soul again. So if you're feeling pulled in too many directions, if you're always reacting and rarely resting, here's your quiet permission. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to chase peace. You just need to stop giving it away. Because real freedom, it begins the moment you say, "Not everything deserves my energy." Let go. Detach. Breathe. You're not here to be everything for everyone. You're here to come home to yourself. Let go of control and find true peace. Have you ever tried to hold on to something that was never yours to hold? Maybe it was someone's affection. Maybe it was a plan that kept falling apart. Maybe it was life itself, twisting and turning in ways you never expected. And so you gripped tighter. You planned more, worked more, worried more. You tried to anticipate every possible outcome, every emotion, every obstacle. You told yourself, if I just try harder, maybe I can keep it all together. But it kept slipping through your fingers anyway. That's the illusion of control, and it's exhausting. It's like trying to catch clouds with chains. The tighter you hold, the more drained you become. There's a teaching in Buddhism that speaks to this directly. To resist the flow is to suffer. To surrender is to swim. Let that sink in. Because we've been taught to equate control with safety. If we manage every detail, maybe we can avoid disappointment. If we hold on tightly, maybe we won't get hurt. But here's the truth no one tells you. Control is comforting, but only in theory. In reality, control is often just fear dressed up as responsibility. We don't cling because we're strong. We cling because we're scared. But life isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's a river to be experienced. And the more we try to dam it, redirect it, or hold it still, the more we suffer. Because rivers were meant to flow. So ask yourself, what are you gripping so tightly right now? A person? A timeline? A version of success that doesn't even feel like yours anymore? What would happen if, instead of clenching, you opened your hands? Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's not giving up. It's finally aligning with reality instead of fighting it. Because most of the suffering we experience doesn't come from life itself. It comes from our resistance to what is. Imagine sitting beside a river in meditation. Leaves drift by. Some are beautiful, some are torn. But you don't chase them. You don't cling to them. You simply watch. That's presence. And when you learn to treat your emotions, your thoughts, your circumstances the same way, you reclaim something priceless, clarity. So the next time something feels out of your control, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this a storm I must pass through, or a wall I'm trying to push? Because some things require patience, others require surrender. Either way, the answer isn't control, it's awareness. And when you choose presence over panic, something shifts. You stop forcing, you start flowing. You stop reacting, you start responding. You begin to act with intention and release the need to control the outcome. This is the heart of mindfulness. It's planting the seed, but not digging it up every day to check if it's growing. It's doing your part, then trusting that what's meant for you will arrive in its own time. So, what might you gain if you let go of what you can't hold? More sleep? More space in your chest to breathe? More joy in the now? Because every moment spent gripping is a moment lost. Every second of worry is a second of presence you never get back. So here's a quiet reminder. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to stop suffering unnecessarily. Control says, I must make this work. Surrender whispers, I'll do my best, and release the rest. And maybe that's all we really need to do. Our part. No more, no less. Let go of the finish line. Let go of the performance. Let go of the need to bend reality to your will. And you'll find something waiting for you. Freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from unnecessary tension. So today, ask yourself, what would letting go make room for in my life? Maybe it's silence. Maybe it's laughter. Maybe it's the version of you that's been buried under all that effort. You don't need to chain the clouds anymore. You don't need to control the river. You just need to learn how to float, how to breathe, how to be here, now. And when you do, you'll find a peace that no one and nothing can take from you. That's the power of surrender. That's the strength in letting go. The matrix of approval. Break free and be yourself. Let me ask you a simple but uncomfortable question. Are you living your life or are you performing it? It's okay. Take a moment with that. Because for most of us, the truth is we were handed a script. And we've been reading from it for so long, we forgot it wasn't ours. From the moment we were old enough to be praised or corrected, society began its quiet programming. Be successful. Be attractive. Be impressive. Be good, but not too different. Be likable, but not too much. And we listened. We began chasing applause like it was oxygen. We measured our worth by how others responded to us. Smiles, likes, promotions, compliments, invitations. But here's the thing. You were not born needing approval. You were born present, curious, real. The hunger for approval came later, after you were taught that love had conditions, that happiness had a price tag, that being accepted was more important than being authentic. It's like society handed you a mirror and whispered, "Only when they smile back will you know who you are." But has chasing approval ever truly made you feel whole? Be honest. Has the perfect post ever filled the silence inside you? Has the promotion ever erased the pressure? Has being admired ever stopped the self-doubt from creeping in at night? The truth is this: approval is a moving target. You might hit it today, only to miss it tomorrow. And every time you do, you start the chase all over again. Tired, anxious, disconnected. So here's the question I want you to sit with. What am I chasing that I never questioned? Is this dream mine, or was it installed? Is this version of success my own, or a story written for me? Picture it like this. Society is a giant stage play. Everyone performing roles, confident, successful, desirable. And the moment you step off script, the spotlight dims, the applause fades, and suddenly you feel alone. But what if you were never meant to be on that stage? What if the real you lives not in the performance, but in the quiet moments off stage? The truth is, you don't need the world to clap for you to feel worthy. You don't need to keep playing a character you've outgrown. You need stillness. You need clarity. You need space to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. So how do you begin? You unplug. You pause. You ask. Start small. Write it out. What am I doing right now that feels forced? What expectations am I carrying that aren't mine? Maybe it's staying in a job that impresses others but drains you. Maybe it's posting online for validation, not joy. Maybe it's pretending to be okay just to keep others comfortable. Whatever it is, name it. And then, gently but firmly, say no. Say no to the pretending. No to the constant performance. No to the roles that suffocate your soul. And here's the most radical act of all. Say yes to your truth. Even if no one claps. Even if no one notices. Because in that quiet rebellion, something beautiful happens. You come back to yourself. You begin to live from the inside out. You stop needing mirrors to know who you are. You stop bending for applause and start standing for peace. Remember, you don't need to be understood to be real. You just need to be aligned. Detachment doesn't mean coldness. It means clarity. You're not rejecting the world. You're simply refusing to lose yourself in it. So the next time you feel the urge to perform, pause. Take a breath and ask, Is this me, or is this the role I was taught to play? Every time you choose honesty over performance, you reclaim your power. Every time you stop chasing approval, you step off the stage. And when the spotlight fades, when the clapping stops, when the curtain falls, what remains is the truest, quietest version of you. And that version? It's not here to impress. It's here to be free. So, say no, not in anger, but in alignment. Say no to the noise, to the pressure, to the persona. And in that no, you'll find your deepest yes, the one that whispers, "I am enough without the applause." And that is where your real life begins. Let go gracefully, the art of being present without possession. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're holding a rose. It's beautiful, vibrant, full of life, but you're gripping it too tightly, so tightly that the thorns begin to pierce your skin. You bleed, you hurt, and yet you don't let go. Because you love the rose, right? Because you don't want to lose it. But what if the pain isn't coming from the rose, but from how you're holding it? That's what attachment does. We think we're protecting what we love, but often we're suffocating it and ourselves in the process. This is the heart of detachment, and it's one of the most misunderstood ideas in life and in Buddhist wisdom. People hear detachment and think shutting down, walking away, not feeling, but that's not it at all. True detachment is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. It's not about having less emotion. It's about having less grip. You can care deeply without clinging desperately. You can be present with love, with hope, with purpose, and still allow life to flow without trying to trap it. It's the difference between holding something gently and squeezing it until it breaks. So, take a moment and ask yourself, what am I holding on to so tightly that it's starting to hurt? Maybe it's a relationship that's changed, a dream that's delayed, a version of your life that no longer fits. We all carry these things. We say, I need this. I can't be okay without it. But what if we softened that story? What if instead we told ourselves, I hope this happens, but I'll be okay either way? Feel the difference? That small shift in language changes everything. It moves you from fear to freedom, from anxiety to awareness. Because the truth is, we suffer not because things change, but because we wanted them to stay the same. We try to freeze moments, preserve feelings, lock down outcomes. But life doesn't work like that. It breathes, it moves, it evolves. The more we resist that flow, the more we suffer. And the more we embrace it, the more we heal. So how do we begin practicing this art of gentle letting go? Start by watching your language. Pay attention to when you say, I need. Replace it with, I prefer. Say, I'd love for this to work out, but I trust that I'll find peace no matter what. I hope they understand me, but I don't need their approval to stand in my truth. This isn't weakness. This is wisdom. And like any skill, it takes practice. Try this visual. Picture your thoughts and feelings as leaves floating down a river. You're sitting at the edge, just watching. You don't chase them, you don't dive in, you don't try to hold on to any one leaf. You observe, you breathe, you let them pass. That's detachment. That's peace. But let's be honest, it's not always easy. Letting go can feel like loss, like failure, like giving up on someone or someone that once meant everything to us. But here's the truth. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're no longer letting the weight of your attachment pull you under. It's choosing presence over possession. It's loving fully without needing to control. It's trusting that what's meant for you will never need to be chased. So ask yourself, What am I holding so tightly that it's holding me back? Is it the fear of being alone? The belief that you're only worthy if you achieve more? The idea that your life must look a certain way to be meaningful? Every time you question those inner attachments, you loosen the rope, and eventually you set yourself free. You begin to grow, not in spite of the letting go, but because of it. Because when your hands are no longer clenched around what was, they're finally open to receive what is. When you release the rose, the thorns stop cutting, and the beauty remains, still yours to admire, just no longer hurting you. So today, take a quiet step toward peace. Let go, not out of defeat, but out of deep wisdom. Let go so your heart has space to breathe, so your mind has room to be still, so your life can unfold, not on your schedule, but in its own sacred rhythm. Train your mind to witness, not to grasp, to feel, but not to fix, to hope, but not to hinge your happiness on a single outcome. This is the art of detachment. This is where strength lives. This is where freedom begins. When you stop caring, you begin to heal. Let me offer you a simple image. Picture a clear glass of water, but now imagine someone stirring the bottom constantly with a spoon. The water becomes cloudy. You can't see through it anymore. Everything feels chaotic, murky, unsettled. Now, what happens if you stop stirring? Gradually, the sediment falls to the bottom. The water clears. Stillness returns. Clarity emerges. That glass is your mind. And every time you react, every time you let small frustrations pull you in, you're stirring the water again. Here's the truth. Most of our mental noise doesn't come from life itself. It comes from our constant reactions to life. Someone says something rude, and we replay it for hours. We scroll social media and compare ourselves to people we barely know. We receive a piece of criticism and spiral into self-doubt, not because we want to, but because we've been conditioned to believe that reacting is necessary. But here's what I want you to try instead. Observation over reaction. Start seeing your reactions for what they are, habits, not truth. You're not obligated to respond to every trigger. You don't have to join every argument. You don't need to explain yourself to people who've already made up their minds. The moment you stop reacting, you reclaim your power. It's not passive, it's presence. You begin to act with awareness instead of reacting from emotion. And that is where healing begins. Because when you stop letting everything get to you, you start getting back to yourself. You may wonder, but if I stop caring, won't I become cold, numb, disconnected? No. You won't become careless, you'll become clear. There's a quiet strength in choosing not to engage with what drains you. There's wisdom in letting some things pass by like clouds in the sky, acknowledged but not absorbed. Start with the little things. Mindfulness in daily life is meditation in motion. When you brush your teeth, feel the bristles, the rhythm. When you drink your tea, notice the warmth, the aroma. These are small moments, but they're opportunities to return to stillness, to stop stirring the glass. And here's something powerful to remember. The moment I stopped reacting, I began healing. Really let that sink in. Because every time you choose stillness over reaction, you're training your nervous system to feel safe. You're telling your inner world, we don't have to fight everything. You begin to see that peace isn't found by fixing the chaos outside. It's found in refusing to let it disturb your center. Ask yourself, how many times have you said something you regretted simply because you didn't pause? How many times have you stayed up at night replaying moments that didn't matter the next day? Imagine who you'd become if you stopped doing that. If you gave yourself space to breathe, to think clearly, to choose your energy carefully.
What if your peace didn't depend on perfect conditions, but on your ability to sit with discomfort without obeying it? That's mindfulness. That's maturity. That's emotional freedom. You're not here to win every argument. You're not here to correct every misunderstanding. You're not even here to control how others perceive you. You're here to be rooted, to be still, to be deeply, unapologetically yourself. So the next time a thought rises, why did they say that? What if I mess this up? What if they don't like me? Pause. Breathe.
This is just a thought. I don't have to follow it. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. The sky, not the weather. The ocean, not the waves. Let others stir if they must, but you can stay still. Because in that stillness, something sacred returns. Clarity, presence, power. So don't confuse stillness with weakness. It's not giving up. It's waking up. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are responding to your truth. And the more you stop reacting, the more you start living. Because in the silence that follows your non-reaction, you'll hear something you haven't heard in a long time. Yourself. You are not your thoughts, finding peace in the space between. Let me begin with an image. Imagine the sky on a quiet day, vast, clear, endless. Now imagine a few clouds drifting by. Some are soft and white, some are dark and heavy, but none of them change the sky itself. The sky remains, always there, always still. That's you. You are the sky. Your thoughts? They're just the clouds. But here's the thing most of us forget. We start believing we are the clouds. That every anxious thought, every fear, every story that pops into our head is somehow us. But it's not. You are not your fear. You are not your judgment. You are not that voice saying, "I'm not good enough." You are the awareness noticing those thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. In Buddhist teaching, this is a powerful truth. Train your mind to witness, not to cling. Let that sit with you for a second. You don't have to believe every thought. You don't have to argue with them either. You can simply observe. Try this practice. The next time a thought pops into your head, maybe it's harsh, anxious, or self-critical, don't react. Just label it. Say to yourself, judging, fearing, doubting. That simple act creates distance. You move from being inside the thought to witnessing the thought. And in that space between you and the thought, that's where peace lives. Here's what no one tells you. Most of our thoughts aren't even original. They're echoes of old fears, voices from childhood, patterns we picked up from parents, teachers, media. They don't define who you are. They're just mental weather. And like weather, they pass. But what happens when we don't create that space? We identify with the thought. We become the storm. One negative thought leads to another. One small worry spirals into hours of anxiety. We cling, we react, we believe every word. But now imagine this. You're sitting quietly and a thought arises. They don't respect me. Instead of reacting, instead of replaying the moment, you simply say, that's a thought. That's it. Not true, not false, just a thought. Do you feel the freedom in that? You begin to realize you don't have to follow every mental path. You don't have to chase every cloud across the sky. You can just be. That's the power of mindfulness. It's not about controlling your thoughts. It's about not letting them control you. The more you observe your thoughts, the more patterns you begin to see. You might notice that same voice shows up before big decisions. That it speaks loudest when you feel tired, vulnerable, unseen. And when you know it, you no longer need to fear it.
You start living with awareness instead of autopilot. You respond instead of reacting. You breathe instead of spiraling. And something beautiful happens. You begin to trust the stillness behind the noise. That stillness, it's always been there. It's your true self. Not the performer, not the worrier, not the overthinker. Just awareness. Just presence. Just being. So here's your invitation. Start watching your mind the way you'd watch clouds in the sky. Let them come, let them go. Smile at them if you want, but don't grab them. Don't fight them. Don't follow them. You don't need to fix every thought. You don't need to believe every story. You just need to return to the sky. The more you practice this, the more you'll realize you've always been free, even when your mind felt noisy, even when your thoughts were racing. You've always been the calm, vast space underneath it all. So today, take a breath, take a step back, and remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the sky, clear, open, peaceful. Let the clouds pass, let the stories fade, and keep returning to that quiet, powerful place within you, because that's where your peace has always lived.
Stop seeking approval, the power of naked honesty. Let me offer you a simple but powerful image. Picture a calm, still lake on a windless morning. The water is so quiet, it reflects everything with perfect clarity. The sky above, the trees along the edge, even the smallest leaf floating by. Now imagine tossing a stone into that lake. Ripples spread. The reflection is disturbed. The image warps. That's what happens every time we chase approval. You see, you are the still water. But when you live for applause, when you shape your words, your choices, your identity around what others might think, you're constantly throwing stones into your own reflection. And over time, you can't even recognize yourself anymore. You start asking questions like, who am I trying to impress? Whose approval am I waiting for? Do I even believe in what I'm saying? This is what approval seeking does. It blurs your truth. In Buddhist wisdom, there is no reward for being admired, no prize for being liked. The goal is not to win the crowd. The goal is to be free. And freedom begins when you stop outsourcing your worth, when you no longer need others to say you're enough, because you already know that you are. The world will always offer mirrors. Some will distort you. Some will flatter you. But the only mirror that reflects truth is the one inside you, the still water that lives beneath the surface noise. Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you said no when you wanted to say yes? Or smiled when you wanted to cry? Or stayed silent just to avoid rocking the boat? We've all done it, because we were taught to be likable, agreeable, easy to love. But here's the truth. The more you perform, the further you drift from your real self. And the cost? It's not just burnout. It's forgetting who you are. So here's a practice I call naked honesty. It's simple, but not always easy. It means saying what you actually mean, without softening it to please, without dressing it up for likes or validation. It means declining an invitation without guilt, saying, I need rest, instead of inventing an excuse. Speaking your truth, not because it's popular, but because it's yours. And yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first. You might worry, what if they don't like the real me? But ask yourself, is the cost of being liked worth the price of abandoning yourself? The moment you choose truth over approval, something powerful happens. Stillness returns. You stop throwing stones. You let the water settle. And for the first time in a long time, you see yourself clearly again. It doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop shaping yourself around their expectations. You stop editing your joy. You stop performing your pain.
You begin living from the inside out, not outside in. Think of it like this. Approval is a hungry ghost. No matter how much you feed it, it always comes back. But authenticity, that nourishes you. That liberates you. So what would it look like for you to stop performing? To stop explaining, pleasing, impressing, and instead just be. Maybe it's telling your truth in a relationship that feels misaligned. Maybe it's finally creating that art, that business, that life, without asking, will they approve? Maybe it's looking in the mirror and whispering, I am enough, without applause. Let that become your truth. Let it echo in your bones. Because when you stop seeking approval, you start living from truth.
And here's the most surprising part. You might think people will reject you, but often they'll respect you more. Because authenticity is magnetic. It inspires. It gives others permission to be real too. So if you're tired of chasing approval, of walking on eggshells, of twisting yourself into shapes you were never meant to hold, pause, breathe, and return to the stillness within you. Say what's true. Live what's true, even if no one claps. Still water reflects truth. So stop throwing rocks. Let your reflections settle. Let your voice be honest, and let your life be real. That's not rebellion. That's peace. The power of saying no without guilt, a Buddhist approach to boundaries. Let's start with a simple truth. No is a complete sentence. Not rude, not selfish, not cold, just honest. But how often do we say yes when we mean no? How often do we smile through discomfort, agree out of fear, or stretch ourselves thin just to meet expectations that don't even align with who we are? Most of us have been conditioned to believe that kindness means always being available, that love means constant sacrifice, that saying no will make people upset, disappointed, or worse, leave. But here's the truth Buddhism gently reminds us of. Compassion includes you too. And boundaries? They're not walls. They're bridges between your peace and the world. You see, every time you say yes out of guilt, you betray a small part of yourself. And over time, those tiny betrayals add up. They show up as exhaustion, as quiet resentment, as a subtle disconnection from who you truly are. So let me ask you something. What have you been tolerating, not because it helps you grow, but because you feel like you owe someone? Maybe it's a relationship that always drains you, a social circle that no longer reflects your values, a commitment that no longer serves your path. Here's what Buddhist wisdom teaches. True compassion isn't self-erasure, it's balance. It's giving from a full cup, not pouring from an empty one. So how do we begin to reclaim ourselves without guilt? It starts by redefining no. Not as rejection, but as protection. Not as defiance, but as self-respect. Try this phrase. No, I can't. That's it. That's the whole sentence. You don't need to explain. You don't need to soften it with 5 backup reasons. You don't need to twist yourself to make others feel better about your truth. Because here's the thing. If someone's love for you demands you abandoning yourself, that's not love. That's control. Every no to what depletes you is a yes to your peace. Imagine what your life would feel like if you stopped apologizing for needing space, for resting, for having limits. Imagine if you carved out what I call sacred time, a few hours every week that belong to no one else. No texts, no favors, no meetings. Just you, breathing, realigning, listening inward. This isn't luxury. It's survival. It's how you return to yourself. Think of it like tending to a fire.
If you keep giving away your wood, your energy, your time, your care, without ever sitting by the fire to warm your own hands, eventually the fire goes out. Saying no keeps that fire burning. So how do we handle the guilt? With awareness. The next time you feel the urge to over-explain, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, is this guilt real, or is it a story I've been taught to believe? Guilt often doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It just means you're breaking an old pattern. And breaking patterns is how you grow. Let me ask again, what are you staying in, not out of growth, but out of guilt? A job that drains your spirit. A friendship based on obligation, not connection. A role you've outgrown, but keep playing to keep others comfortable. Now imagine who you'd become if you released that. If you honored your own boundaries without flinching. If you trusted that the people meant for you will respect your no. Because healthy relationships don't demand your exhaustion. They encourage your balance.
Remember this. Other people's reactions are not your responsibility. Their disappointment isn't a sign that you failed. It's a reflection of their expectation, not your truth. Detach from it. Honor your energy. Let silence replace over-explanation. Because when you stop negotiating with your truth, you begin to walk lighter. You begin to live freer. And here's what's beautiful. When you live with clarity, you inspire others to do the same. Your no gives someone else permission to finally say theirs. So today, say it softly. Say it clearly. Say it with love. But say it. No. Let that one word open the door to a life that honors your spirit. Because every time you choose your peace over pressure, you reclaim a part of yourself that was waiting to come home. And that kind of alignment, that's where your real power begins. Let go of the outcome, the peace of planting without pushing. Let me ask you something simple. Have you ever planted a seed, then dug it up every day just to check if it's growing? Sounds ridiculous, right? And yet, that's how many of us live. We put effort into something, a relationship, a job, a dream, and then obsess over the result. We worry if it's growing fast enough, well enough, visibly enough. We grasp, we tighten, we control. But here's the truth that every farmer knows. Seeds don't grow from pressure. They grow from patience. The farmer tills the soil, plants the seed, waters it with care, and steps back. Because even he knows growth doesn't answer to anxiety. In Buddhism, this is the wisdom of non-attachment, the practice of giving your best without chaining yourself to the result. But most of us were taught something else, that if you try hard, you should succeed, that if you're kind, others should treat you well, that if you want something badly enough, you'll get it. So when life doesn't go as planned, we suffer, not because of what happened, but because of the meaning we attached to it. And that attachment, that gripping, is the real weight we carry. So what if you could let go? Not out of apathy, but out of trust. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that peace matters more than prediction. Let go of the result. Return to the now. This is your mantra. Say it when your plans fall apart, when the timing feels off, when you've given everything and it still doesn't look like enough. Because sometimes the seed you planted is growing underground, quietly, invisibly. And just because you can't see it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Ask yourself honestly, are you living or just chasing results? Are you measuring your worth by outcomes or by how fully you show up in this moment? When we attach our value to results, we miss the sacredness of the process. We miss the joy of being because we're too focused on becoming. So shift your focus from control to care, from outcome to intention, from timeline to trust. Try this.
The next time your mind spins with worry, pause, breathe, and gently repeat, I let go of the result. I return to the now. That's not giving up. That's wisdom. Because letting go doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you stop pushing. It means you give your best and surrender the rest. What might happen if you stopped gripping the outcome so tightly? Maybe you'd sleep better, breathe deeper, show up more fully. Maybe you'd fall back in love with the journey. Imagine this. You write the book because you have something to say, not because you're chasing a bestseller list. You show kindness because that's who you are, not because you expect it to be returned. You work with devotion, not because of praise, but because it's meaningful to you. And then you release. Because here's the quiet truth. What is meant for you already knows how to find you. You don't have to chase it. You just have to be ready when it arrives. That's what surrender looks like. Not passive, not powerless, but full of presence.
So today, ask yourself, where am I attaching too tightly? What outcome am I trying to force? What would happen if I let go? Let your effort be sincere. Let your heart be open. Let your peace be rooted in now, not later. Because when you stop pulling at the seed, you give it space to grow. And in that space, you grow too. You become lighter, freer, and finally, more at peace. Let go of the outcome, return to the now, and trust this simple truth. What's meant for you will never miss you. Walk away from what drains you, the silent exit. Let me ask you something that might stir something deep inside. Are you staying where you are because you're growing, or just because you feel guilty leaving? There comes a point in life when we have to pause and ask, is this still meant for me, or am I just afraid to walk away? Some battles are noble, some are worth fighting, but not every fire is yours to put out. Some relationships, some jobs, some social circles, they don't need more effort. They need your quiet exit. But we're not taught that, are we? We're taught to endure, to try harder, to fix things, to stay, because walking away feels like failure. But what if I told you that leaving isn't weakness? That sometimes walking away silently is the strongest thing you'll ever do. In Buddhist teachings, there's a concept of non-attachment, not just to possessions, but to pain, to roles, and even to your old identity. You don't have to announce your exit. You don't have to burn bridges or write final messages. You can just walk away. Peacefully, quietly, fully. No drama, no anger, no need to be understood. That's the silent exit. And here's the truth. If something consistently drains your energy, steals your peace, and leaves you feeling empty, it is no longer aligned with your path. Yes, you may love them. Yes, it may have once felt right. Yes, you might feel like you owe something. But ask yourself this: do I owe them more than I owe myself? You are allowed to leave situations that harm your spirit. You are allowed to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. The more you stay where your light is dimmed, the harder it becomes to shine at all. So what does walking away really look like? It's not slamming doors. It's not cold shoulders or bitter silence. It's simply choosing not to show up where you are constantly diminished. It's reclaiming your energy without explanation. It's saying no more without raising your voice. You don't need permission to protect your well-being. Try this. Carve out sacred time that belongs only to you. A few hours a week with no obligations, no texts, no roles to perform. Just quiet, just breath, just you. Guard that time. Let it become a sanctuary where you reconnect with your center. And when others don't understand,
Let that be their journey, not your burden. Their disappointment is not your responsibility. Their expectations are not your obligation. Every time you say yes when your soul says no, you betray yourself a little. So ask yourself gently, what am I still carrying out of guilt instead of out of love? What spaces do I remain in not because I'm growing, but because I'm afraid? Remember this. You don't owe your energy to everything that asks for it. You are not required to keep showing up in places that ask you to shrink. And if it's stealing your peace, it's too expensive. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally care enough to choose yourself. So walk away, not to hurt someone else, but to heal yourself. Walk away, not because you're done with love, but because you're ready for a love that doesn't deplete you. Walk away, not to prove anything, but to return to the version of you who knows what peace feels like. And that walk, that quiet, firm, graceful exit, that might just be the most powerful step you ever take. So here's your invitation today. Breathe. Reflect. Ask yourself, does this space nourish my soul or drain it? Am I staying to grow or just to survive? Am I loyal to the situation or to my evolution? Let your answer guide you, because freedom doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives in silence, in the soft sound of a door gently closing behind you, and your feet finally walking towards peace.
Be the tree, practicing emotional non-reactivity in a chaotic world. Let me offer you an image. Picture a tree, not just any tree, but an ancient one. Its roots run deep into the earth. The wind blows, the storm comes, the branches sway and the leaves rustle. But the roots, they don't move. The tree remains grounded. Now ask yourself, what if you could live like that? Still, steady, unshaken. Most of us don't realize how much we've handed over our peace, not through decisions, but through reactions. A rude comment, a missed text, a look someone gave you across the room. And suddenly, you're spiraling, defensive, angry, hurt, like your inner world was hijacked in an instant. But here's the truth. Every time you react emotionally without pause, you give your power away. You hand your calm to someone else. You let a passing moment decide your inner state. Buddhism teaches us a powerful lesson here. Peace is not found in control. It's found in non-reaction. That doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It doesn't mean pretending to be unaffected. It means this: you pause, you breathe, you choose your response. It's that simple and that difficult. Next time something triggers you, don't answer right away. Don't defend. Don't snap back. Instead, pause for just 3 seconds. Take a breath. Feel the air move through your body. And in that space, ask, is this worth disturbing my peace for? Is this a reflection of me or of them? When you do that, you shift from reaction to response. You stop being a leaf tossed in the wind and become the tree again. And here's what happens next. Instead of regretting what you said in anger, you speak from clarity. Instead of feeling drained by confrontation, you walk away with your energy intact. Instead of escalating chaos, you become the calm in the room. This is not weakness. This is mastery. And you don't have to wait for a spiritual retreat or a life crisis to begin. You start right here, right now. Try this. When you're stuck in traffic, when someone cuts you off, pause, breathe. When your partner says something that stings, pause, breathe. When your child pushes every button, pause, breathe.
In just those 3 seconds, something ancient awakens in you. Not the reactive mind, but the wise observer. The part of you that sees the storm, but doesn't become it. The Buddha once said, "Be the tree. Let the winds come. Let the storms rage, but stay grounded." Think of your breath as your roots. Each inhale brings you back to center. Each exhale lets go of what isn't yours to carry. This is how emotional resilience is built, not by avoiding the storm, but by standing still within it. You might be wondering, but what about justice? What if I need to speak up? And yes, you can, but from a place of grounded strength, not reactive fire. Non-reactivity doesn't mean inaction. It means conscious action. It means no longer being baited by every trigger, no longer running on emotional autopilot. So today, ask yourself, how often am I reacting from fear instead of responding from peace? What would change if I paused for 3 seconds before every decision, every reply, every outburst? Try it, just for a day. You'll notice the difference. The more you pause, the more you breathe, the more rooted you become. And in that space, no one can steal your calm. No moment can shake your truth. No storm can uproot who you really are. You become the tree.
The door was never locked. Real freedom begins with acceptance. Let me leave you with this. What if the door you've been pushing on was never actually locked? What if the peace you've been chasing, the calm, the clarity, the freedom, was already within reach, and all you had to do was turn the handle? See, we spend so much of our lives trying to break through, forcing change, controlling outcomes, resisting what is. We think, if I just try harder, if I fix this one last thing, then maybe I'll finally feel okay. But here's the truth. The struggle itself is what keeps us stuck. In Buddhism, there's a teaching that sounds so simple, but it's everything. Acceptance is the key to inner peace. Not resignation, not giving up. Acceptance as in being fully present with what is, without needing it to be anything else. Take a breath, right now. Look at where you are, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Ask yourself, am I resisting life or flowing with it? Am I trying to control the uncontrollable or trusting the unfolding? Peace doesn't come from perfection. It comes from presence. From that quiet decision to stop arguing with reality. Because here's the thing, life isn't asking you to have it all figured out. It's asking you to meet this moment fully, to show up with awareness, with compassion, and with surrender. Imagine beginning your day with this simple mantra. I let go of what I can't control. I accept what is. Say it gently to yourself when you wake up. Say it again before you rest. Feel how those words soften the tight places in your chest, the ones holding on too hard. Because when you stop fighting the moment, you start feeling the truth underneath it. The real you, the unshakable awareness beneath all the striving. Here's what's wild. Most of the things we think we need to fix, they don't need fixing. They just need space. Space to breathe, to be seen, to unfold naturally in their own time. And yes, sometimes acceptance is the hardest practice of all, because it means letting go of control. It means saying, even if I don't understand this yet, I trust that I will. But in that letting go, you reclaim something much more valuable than certainty. You reclaim peace. You reclaim yourself. And maybe, just maybe, you remember that you're not here to impress the world. You're here to wake up, to come home to yourself, to be fully present with this life, just as it is. So the next time you find yourself pushing against the world, struggling, resisting, aching for something to change, pause,
breathe, turn the handle. The door was never locked. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it today.